Hello and welcome to the Voices of the Learning Network podcast. I'm your host today, Bill Banham, and this show is all about exploring what's changing in workplace learning and sharing practical ideas that you can actually use. Today, I'm joined by Niki Hobson, a learning specialist over at the BBC and an experienced learning designer who's worked across various voluntary sectors. She's also a smartphone videographer and trainer who helps others create video content with their smartphones. Niki's passion is video, and she's on a mission to make it accessible to everyone, not just people with big budgets and production teams. She believes anyone can create video, and if you've got a smartphone, you've already got what you need to create meaningful learning experiences. Niki recently delivered a brilliant 5-minute talk at the Learning Network's Connect conference back in November 2025, where she introduced her video framework, a practical 5-step approach to simplifying video creation and helping teams make better, faster, more confident learning content. So in this episode, everyone, we're going to dig into what it really takes to build a video into learning, how to get teams comfortable on camera, and what good looks like when you're moving fast. And of course, we're also going to talk about how we can create a culture where experimentation becomes normal, because that's terribly important, according to Niki. Niki, welcome to the show today. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here.
So, Niki, you've built a big part of your learning approach around video, of course. What first pulled you into video as a learning tool, and what keeps you passionate about it today?
So video has always been, like I say, ingrained in me. I did my degree in television and film design, worked in the film industry for a while, and then was told to get a real job. So tried to get a job as close to film as I possibly could and became a manager of a multiplex cinema. Then I started doing the staff training and the inductions and found actually I really, really enjoy this. So then started working in L&D and then discovered this magical team called Learning Design and realized that I could bring video and learning together. And it was perfect. And ever since then, it's like the stars have aligned, and that is me. That is just my passion. It's fabulous that I can bring those two worlds together. What keeps me passionate? Well, I stupidly did an MA, so I'm doing my master's and starting to research video, and it's my creative outlet. So not only do I love learning around how useful it is in an L&D context, but then I also love creating it as well. So I'm constantly out filming my adventures across Derbyshire, or with my smartphone. That is my creative weekend, Niki in her happy place.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So a lot of people say that they want to create video learning, but don't actually know how to do it. In your experience, what's the biggest blocker? Skills, confidence, culture, something else? What's preventing people from actually jumping in?
I think the biggest thing is confidence. We have this perception that we all should be creating a Hollywood blockbuster, and it's really not the case. I think most people assume to create any kind of video, you need a big production, you need a camera person, a sound person, a director, and it's just not true. You can do it with a smartphone, you can do it as a one-person crew. So I think it's that confidence, and then knowing where to start as well. It can be quite scary, both sides of the camera. So just giving it a go. It's like any skill, isn't it? The more you do it, the more confident you get at it. So I think that's the first blocker. I think then the second one is the skills around production and editing. So production is like, what shot do I use here? How do I make it less shaky? And the technical stuff of what mic should I use? What sound levels do I need to think about? Which kind of brings us into that editing. If you're looking at things like Adobe Premiere and Final Cut Pro and you've never used editing software, they're daunting. They're really overwhelming. And if you start talking about editing to people who are in that world, they use all this jargon that we use in L&D, but we don't really think about because it's our language. And again, people start talking about grading and resolution. It's scary. So I think that doesn't help. And that's where I want to really help make it accessible. That's what I mean by make it accessible. Try and take that fear away that all you need is a smartphone. You can use apps on your phone to edit. You do not need to invest in great equipment, editing software. So it's the confidence and the skills that I think is the big blocker.
if you know Opus Clip, which is it's a tool that I'm yet to fully utilize. It's on the
Yeah,
list.
yeah,
But in the context of accessibility, one thing that particular tool is pretty good at is creating shorts for YouTube Shorts or whatever, with the captions
yep.
and all the rest of it. Um, is that a particularly powerful form of content? Keeping it under a couple of minutes. Does it kind of depend on what type of content it is? Regardless, should you always keep your videos under 10 minutes? What are your thoughts around that?
Research is quite clear on the shorter the better, really. Research is showing that learners tend to switch off or completely shut down the video around 6 minutes. So there's varying times as you look at it. Some say 1 to 3 minutes, some say 6 minutes, some say no longer than 9. So really the average is about 5. I'd say if you're going over that length, then you really need to be considering, does this need to be 2 videos?
Are there generational differences as well with the length of video which is appropriate? So I'm an old fogey these days, and often I hear these Gen Zers have got no attention span. Is that correct? If you're targeting younger folks, should you be looking for a shorter form than old giffers like me? What is there any rhyme or reason around that?
But look, firstly, you're not an old giffer. Let's just clarify that. Secondly, no, I don't think so. Not that the research, it might be relatively new research that I've not discovered yet, but content is content. If you've got content that the learner is interested in, they will stay and watch. And it's grabbing their attention. That's the bit that you need to focus on. What hook? Are you sharing the right content? It doesn't matter what generation they fall in. If it's relevant to them, they will stay and watch.
Okay. A strong categorical answer there. Let's talk about the
Yeah.
video framework now, if you don't mind. The story behind the structure. So at Connect 2025, you shared your video framework, which is a practical 5-step approach to creating amazing video. In 3 minutes or less, I'm going to challenge you a bit like you were challenged on the day. In 3 minutes or less, can you walk us through the 5 steps and what each step is meant to unlock for learners and content creators? Go.
Well, full disclosure, I went over my 5 minutes. So, right, challenge accepted. So you mentioned there's 5 steps to it, and the 5 steps are broken down into V.I.D.E.O. See what I did there? The first step is visualize your objectives. And this is where, before you pick up your camera, before you hit record, you've got to stop and think, have you defined the overall goal? Do you know what you're trying to achieve with this video? The second point is getting to know your audience. Do you know what they care about, what they already know? Because you don't want to start your video on some basics that they already understand. Once you know that, you can then grab their attention and then they will continue to watch. Next step, so step 2 is information optimization. And this is all about reducing cognitive overload. So keeping your videos short, like we've just mentioned, keep them focused to that learning objective and get rid of any other information. You've then got to remember that video is both visual and audio. So you've got to you've got to engage both senses. If you're not doing that, it could have just been a podcast or it could have been an e-learning course. So you've got to think about what information you're sharing using both of those channels. Step 3, develop engagement. So the best videos don't just teach people something, don't just inform people, they actually engage them and bring them in and make it quite an engaging and less passive experience. So first things is, can you use a story or a scenario, make it relatable and show how it applies in that person's day-to-day life or working career? And then, as I mentioned, there's that interaction. So don't just talk at your audience, you need to get them thinking. And by doing that, you could ask reflective questions or you could add some pauses and let them think. It's how do you turn them into that passive audience into then taking action afterwards. Step 4, effective design. So this is about making your videos easy to follow and also inclusive. So you've got to think about the composition of your shots. Is a close-up going to help if you're trying to show something quite technical and hands-on? Good framing just makes it a lot easier for the audience to follow the information that you're trying to share. Also directs their attention to the really key parts of the information. And then, as I've mentioned, there's the inclusivity, accessible. Have you included captions? Is there enough color contrast on any text that you're including and it's not blending in with the video? Do you need transcripts, things like that? Essentially make sure that everybody can engage with the content. And then lastly, the final step is outcome and impact. So you want it to have measurable results. Otherwise, why are we doing it in the first place? So there's that call to action. Have you included a call to action? What do you want the audience to do afterwards? And then how are you going to evaluate that impact as well? So what analytics can you get? What real world data is going to show that it's had the impact? So each step has been designed to really help you plan your video, but then within it, there's loads of practical production techniques as well that can help you create the content when you actually get onto set. Was it 3 minutes?
Just about. I think we'll take that. Well done. Let's talk a bit about failure and experimentation now. You wrote on LinkedIn. See, I was doing my homework. You wrote on LinkedIn following the Connect conference that the message for you was quite clear: try things, mess it up, learn, try again. So how, on the back of that, how does an L&D pro create the psychological safety, or at least have a role in creating that psychological safety for that kind of experimentation, especially in organizations where getting it wrong perhaps feels a bit risky?
Yeah, and it's a really valid point, but I think we have to start small. So if we're wanting to start experimenting with video and use it more, don't go and think I'm going to do a 5-minute explainer video on a really, really important subject. Pick certain projects, ideally with a smaller audience. If you're going to learn through failure, then keep that audience small. It might be that you only do some videos for the internal L&D team. There's then, I would suggest keeping it as a short time scale. You don't want to experiment and be taking months or years. I would say try and get a month and see what you learn, and then share that learning as well. So by doing it fast, you're going to learn quickly. It kind of focuses you on, I think any creative person will always say that a project is never finished. There's always tweaks that you could make. So I think keeping it in mind that it doesn't have to be perfect. While we're experimenting, we can try different things. And as I say, the really important thing is share those reflections on what you found, talk about the possibilities of what you could do next. That will then get more engagement of, oh yes, let's do a video on this and let's try this. And then before you know it, you end up creating a Hollywood blockbuster. I'm kidding. Nobody should be doing that in L&D. I mean, you can in your spare time, go for it, but...
Wonderful. We are almost out of time already. There's a whole bunch of questions that I wanted to ask of you, but we'll just have to get you back on the pod again in the future.
Anytime.
So thank you. Let's just wrap up with one more, and it's kind of maybe a little bit of a recap of some of the things you've touched upon so far. We like to leave our listeners with some practical takeaways. So looking ahead, do you think the video creation will become a core skill for more roles, not just L&D, and of course the marketing department, I'm sure, are very heavily involved there? What's one small first step that you'd recommend to organizations who want to build that capability in other departments in 2026?
Yeah, so I think it's going to continue to grow. I think that's the first question. We've got generations coming into the workplace where this is how they consume information, and they can easily generate and create that content as well. What can people do? Well, as I say, give it a go, experiment, start small, not just with small audiences, but also small lengths, maybe a 1-minute video. Set a challenge for an afternoon or a day of what can we cover and what can we share in a 1-minute video. You can get a lot across in video in 1 minute. Find support as well. So get people to help you, get people who are interested. Maybe that's other people in the business who have got some expertise in it that you could bring in and say, look, we want to spend an afternoon doing this. What can you tell us? By all means, anybody can reach out to me. If they want to try, I am more than happy to talk about video until the end of I could talk about it forever. So feel free to reach out. There's also YouTube. I mean, that's where most of us are going for information now. So many people are putting really practical tips online of how you can create video. So yeah, find support from wherever that looks like. And then use the equipment that you've got. Don't spend thousands of pounds, because you very easily can. Use your smartphone, use an editing app that is free and accessible. Just give it a go. That is the biggest tip.
Excellent. And if you do happen to check out this YouTube, I believe you called it, there is a channel on the YouTube called F&D with Niki. So maybe have a look at that. I was on that earlier on today. There's some lovely videos, including some of your walks in beautiful Derbyshire.
Yes.
I love the Peak District. I try to get the Peak District as much as possible. That just leaves me to say for today, Niki, thanks very much for being my guest.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure.